So did I enjoy this because it is legit good or because things in comparison are just so bad? I don't know. And to be honest, I don't really care. What's up, everybody? So this is my review on Fantastic Four: First Steps, directed by Matt Shakman, starring Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, Joseph Quinn as Human Torch, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimm's, aka The Thing. I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm not really sure I enjoyed it because I just wanted to enjoy it so much. Uh, Keep in mind, like, I grew up, in my 20s in the early iterations of comic book movies on a grand scale. I'm talking about like the X-Men movies, the Punisher movie, the Spider-Man movies, and yes, two of the first Fantastic Four movies. Directed by Tim Story. There's Chris Evans as the Human Torch in it. Michael Chiklis as the Thing. I forget the name of the guy who plays Mr. Fantastic. Jessica Alba as Sue Storm. The late great Julian McMahon as Doctor Doom. Those were fun. Those were really cool. I mean, it was a time when, this is pre Dark Knight trilogy. So it was easier to kind of give it a lighter tone. I don't think anybody was taking comic book movies that seriously yet, but then the Dark Knight trilogy hits and then everything has to be grounded and serious, and so you can see how everything from Man of Steel and even the second iteration, or technically third iteration, of the Fantastic Four, as also known as Fan-Four-Stick, has like a darker, grittier tone, which isn't necessarily a good thing. You just have to have a great story with a great cast and great characters. And I think Matt Shakman did a really good job with this overall. Usually I keep my critiques towards the end, but I really only have one critique. And that is, I wish the movie was a little bit longer, to unpack a lot of these other aspects of the movie and with the characters. I thought Matt Shakman did a great job. The runtime is like an hour and 55 minutes, and that's including credits. It is really lean and straightforward, and I guess just as Marvel movie fans, we're not used to that. Everything has to be 2.5 to 3.5 hours long. And I think having it be such a tight story being told with a great cast of actors, it just works really well. Pedro Pascal, I mean, yes, Reed Richards doesn't have a mustache, but I don't care. I buy it. It's fine. And Pedro Pascal is such an incredible actor that he could pull this off. I mean, he really is a nice counterpoint to Iron Man, who's also like, quote unquote, the smartest guy in the room, but he has charm and, a lightness to him. Whereas Mr. Fantastic really does feel like, yes, I'm the smartest guy in the room, and it's also a bit of a burden because the world's problems are the ones that only I can solve, and I need to focus on solving them. But you really just kind of see in his posture and his face, like it's heavy for him, and he pulls that off well. Sue Storm, I thought, was just really great at being like that motherly, maternal figure in the group. I mean, this is Marvel's first family. And so she really kind of pulls it off, and they all do seem like a family, not Fast and the Furious style, but just like a legit family unit, with Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm as the mother and father, and Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm as like the fighting brothers, they're like their children. They really do act like that, but it's great. It's refreshing. It's fun. Everyone has great chemistry. Joseph Quinn, man, I love this guy. I didn't know who he was, but ever since Stranger Things, and he played Eddie Munson, and he ripped off that Metallica Master of Puppets solo, I was hooked. I thought he was great in Gladiator 2, and he's great in this. It's a different version of Johnny Storm compared to Chris Evans. Chris Evans was like slightly less likable, and it seemed just a little bit too cartoonish, even though at the time I enjoyed it. But when I compare it, to Joseph Quinn's version, I was like, okay, this is more palatable for me. And Ben Grimm, it's like he really is like, the heart of gold. He is the not just the heart of gold, rock character, but I think he's like the heart of this movie. And I think that's one of the things that I wish could have been fleshed out a little bit more, because I don't think, Ben Grimm is just so well done in this version. And, he's got the eyebrow like in the Jack Kirby comics. I just wish there was a little bit more of him. Another thing that I like is that they really just kind of bypass the origin story. It's like, hey, let's give him some spark notes on the origin story via like the talk show montage kind of thing, and then just drop him in the world. Like they've already been famous, as the Fantastic Four for 4 years. No pun intended, I guess. And now they're dealing with Galactus coming and the Silver Surfer being Galactus's herald and, all of that. And it's all just terrifically well done. Another maybe slight critique is that the character of Shalla, from my understanding, is not like this huge figure in the Fantastic Four series. She appears for a little bit, but it's more of like the traditional, I forget his name, in the male version, basically, of Silver Surfer, has a much more prominent role as the Silver Surfer in the comics. So I didn't really understand why that had to be made, but it wasn't like it was anything suffered because of it. The story still continued, and it all happened, in a way that you're still going to enjoy the movie. It was still a solid story to tell. And Galactus was really scary at times, and they really pulled it off with the voice, with his presence when he appears. I thought they did a great job with showing this giant figure that gobbles up planets, aside from like the previous iterations where he's a cloud. And at the time, it's like, when I was watching the first Fantastic Four and Galactus was a cloud, and I knew that he wasn't that exactly, I kind of went with it, because in my head, and I think in the head of many others, how are they going to do this? This big, giant, still humanoid-looking figure that could very easily look silly. How can they pull it off? So the fact that they changed it to some cloud, it still kind of worked. But I'm glad that since then they were like, okay, I think we know how to put this all together, and I think they did. I thought it was great. Matt Shakman, he directed WandaVision, all 9 episodes. I'm a huge fan of WandaVision, and I think this guy's got a bright future, and I look forward to more of anything that he does. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What about you guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.